Hi, everyone. So we gather here this evening at the end of Rosh HaShanah, the Jewish New Year, to collectively and Jewishly mourn the loss of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. This is a loss that we feel acutely as an American Jewish community. She was the best of us, and she pointed towards the promise of an America that lived up to the aspirations that first drew Jews to these shores. She was also a personal hero of mine. Before my senior year in college, I spent a summer in DC taking a class at the Religious Action Center and working at Jewish Women International. That summer, I slept outside of the Supreme Court because I'd heard that a few people who got in line early enough would be let in. I had to see her. They let in 51 people, and I was one of the lucky ones who got to see my hero in action that summer. So in Justice Ginsburg's honor, I want to share something I wrote based on a traditional Jewish poem from the Book of Proverbs, Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor. Eshet Chayil is traditionally sung on Shabbat, usually from a husband to a wife, to honor her. In more modern times, women are uncomfortable with it because it lists things women do around the house. I've been asked to read it at funerals, and I've been asked to not read it at funerals. But I think it's a perfect way to honor Justice Ginsburg, a traditional Jewish prayer reimagined in her honor. A woman of valor, she is difficult to find. She was more precious than her white lace collar. Humanity placed its trust in her and profited eternally. She brought people of all races and all creeds and all genders good, not harm, all the days of her life. She sought out those who needed her insight the most and dutifully, relentlessly did the work of her hands. She got up while it was still night, knowing that the work of justice never sleeps. She planted seeds that grew into a vineyard over the years with the fruit of her labors. She invested herself with strength and grace and made her mind sharp and powerful. She opened her hands to the poor and reached out her hands to the needy. She had no fear. She was robed in strength and dignity, and she smiled at the future. She opened her mouth with wisdom, and lessons of kindness were always on her tongue. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, you will be missed, and your memory will forever be a blessing. We will make sure of it. We say Zichrona Livracha. And so now we are so honored to have Senator Jill Schupp, our current state senator, and hopefully future congresswoman, share words about Justice Ginsburg.
Thank you so much, and thank you for those beautiful remarks. As I say her name, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg of blessed memory, it always gives me great pride. She was one of us, of all of us, a person doing what she could to make the world a little bit better. Like us, she wasn't perfect, and that actually gives me hope. Perfection is not a prerequisite for doing good in the world. She inspired me and you and so many with her actions and with her words. She taught us to stand up and stand strong even when, and maybe especially when, it's hard. She taught us that you take the action towards equality and justice and speak the words not only because things will immediately change, but because you are setting the course. You are indeed helping to bend that arc toward justice. With hearts heavy with the sadness of our loss of her next wise statement or dissent, it is my hope that we find the joy and gratitude for having learned from her persistence, her clear vision, and her strength. To me, she was righteous in her humanity and in her purpose. I hope the U.S. Senate will honor her final wish that the people will decide her replacement through their vote on November 3rd. And it is up to each of us to take action by reaching out to our senators here in Missouri, Blunt and Hawley, and to let them know our stance. I think Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg would remind us that we have a purpose and responsibility to carry on the work. Collectively, we all do that by recognizing Election Day, November 3rd, as our opportunity to seek justice and equality. To me, this year, November 3rd, will also be Ruth Bader Ginsburg Day. It will be Women's Equality Day. It will be Constitution Day and Mother's Day. This November 3rd will be Earth Day and Equal Pay Day, and it will be Veterans Day and First Responders Day and Labor Day. This November 3rd is Election Day. I believe that the spirit and the soul of Ruth Bader Ginsburg will be alive in my heart when I vote this November 3rd. She has taught me so much about what can be. Thank you.
Did you want me to go next? Okay, thank you. I want to say how honored I am. And I'll probably start crying because I've been crying for a couple of days now. To be a part of, I'm going to say Ruth Bader Ginsburg's Shiva or pre-Shiva. And thank you very much, Rabbi Karen Bogard, for that beautiful rendition of a woman of valor. That was really magnificent. And thanks, Rabbi Dan Bogard, for your beautiful, beautiful prayer. I don't know, the days are merging together. So I guess it was yesterday morning when I could see in your eyes that, you know, you had been tearful, and I could hear in your voice how deeply her death affected you. And I you know, when a woman hero dies, we expect that all the women will be mourning, and we probably give undue attention to when a man is mourning a woman's death. But that was really very special, and I thank you for that. Congresswoman to be Jill Schupp, everything that you said was right on target, like it always is, and you always reach the highest ground. So like any Shiva or mourning, there's always a little bit of lightness, you know. That's part of that. So I actually met Justice Ginsburg. I didn't have to wait outside, and I didn't have to sleep outside the Supreme Court because I was a member of the National Association of Women Judges, and so we would actually be at the same, you know, cocktail parties. But she did not work the room. She was not like me, running around working the room. She would have, you know, a quiet conversation with somebody. And I was always a little intimidated by her because, you know, I didn't know if I would say something wrong because she was so brilliant. And it just seemed like we were in different planes in our law. I was sort of out there in the, you know, softball field law, and she was really in the World Series all the time. So I was very much in awe of her. But I loved one particular thing that she always said that I just thought was so magnificent, because it made a lot of people kind of think, And what she said in answer to the question, well, Justice Ginsburg, how many women do you think would be enough on the Supreme Court? And her answer was 9. And that's how many justices there are in the Supreme Court, in case somebody listening doesn't know that. And I mean, people were just sort of taken aback by that. Really, 9 women? And she said, well, you know, there have been 9 men for many years, and nobody thought anything about that. So, you know, I love that about her. I love that even though she wasn't silly with me, she could be silly with Justice Scalia in opera terms, and be a walk-on on an opera, and that she loved that she was the notorious RBG, named after a case that was a rapper, the notorious BIG. She really liked that. And I don't think, she didn't file any lawsuits to get her picture taken off T-shirts or candles or buttons or masks or whatever. So I liked that part of her, because I didn't really know that part of her. And I never imagined that she had that part of her, because she was so serious and so intense. So I just loved that she would do that. But I have this, little book that somebody gave me. Actually, I probably have a couple of them. People give them to me all the time. I actually was a judge before RBG. That's a long time ago. But, she was a higher court judge. It takes a longer time to get to be the kind of judge that she was. But, there have been a couple of times in the last maybe few years, one time when she said something she wished she hadn't, and she apologized for it. But for the most part, she really encouraged civility in a profession that can be very uncivil at times. So I just picked out a couple of random quotes. One is, don't be distracted by emotions like anger, envy, resentment. These just zap energy and waste time. So she was a, very determined person, and she wasn't going to do things that wasted time. And she lived really a long, lovely life. And I bet she didn't waste a minute of that time. The other one was, you can disagree without being disagreeable. Now that's a tough one, because it is very easy to become disagreeable. But that was the kind of person that she was. She didn't want anything to distract from the point she was trying to make, or the position that she was advocating. And so she tried to be the highest. And then, finally, I loved her suggestion about how to have a successful marriage, because, I do a lot of family law. I see a lot of unsuccessful marriages. Nobody comes to me about their happy marriage. And what it is, she said, a successful marriage, just be a little deaf. And she said, then she went one step further. She said, and that's not really bad either in dealing with the other members of the Supreme Court. So I try to hold true to those great pieces of advice and try to be a little deaf at times. And in her memory, I just say, we need to just notch up whatever we're doing. We just need to all ratchet it up a little more, do a little more, think a little deeper, and not waste any time. May her memory be a blessing. Thank you.
That, of course, was Judge Susan Block, who needs no introduction, but I apologize for not introducing you properly. With gratitude to Karen and our Senator Jill Schupp, and to all here, Susan, Judge Block, like trying to imagine you at those cocktail parties with Justice Ginsburg. And now we are really privileged as well to hear from a dear friend, the newly appointed president of Eden Seminary, Reverend Dr., who is also a pastor, Deb Krause.
Thank you so much, Susan. And it's so wonderful to be here with all of you, and a real honor. As a Protestant Christian, I would say my people are not good at collective mourning. And so the opportunity to gather with you is a real gift to me, as Justice Ginsburg's death has had a tremendous impact on me. And so for the chance to be a part of your service and to share in it, I am very, very thankful, very honored. In Greek, early Jewish, and early Christian texts, like the writings of the Maccabees and the letters of Paul, the term for people who witness to God's redemptive work and who do so without fear of reprisal from forces that demean and destroy God's creation is martus. The English translation of this term is witness. And the anglicized form of the Greek is used in our language in the term martyr. Now, contrary to the popular opinion of martyrs and use of the term, those who witness to God's redemptive work are not so much heralded for how they die as for how they live. Their lives are an example, a witness for the whole community of what it means to live and work in the redemptive purpose of the Creator. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Justice Ginsburg, lived her life as a powerful witness to what it means to work and live with brilliance, integrity, discipline, passion, dedication, fearlessness, and purpose in the redemptive work of the Holy One. Her legislative prowess, work ethic, dedication to human rights for all, informed and respectful dissent, and capacity to make friends with people with whom she did not agree, all bear witness to who we all can be, to who the Creator yearns for us to be. We are all made to be collaborators in and agents of God's redemptive and reparative work. It's funny, Justice Ginsburg, in the last decade of her life or so, was treated to a level of fandom really afforded rarely, I would guess, Judge Block, to judges, even Supreme Court judges or justices. Indeed, her witness has been just that bright, that powerful, that even as she lived, she became a pop culture superhero icon with the merch to match. And it was very fun to see her enjoy that. Now that she is gone, as we join in our collective laments, let us not miss the point of her work as martus, witness among us. It is for all our sake that we would be imprinted with her example, that we would be inspired to bear her virtues, that we would join in her wake in lives and work that are similarly engaged in the redemptive repair of our world. Thank you.
Thank you, President Reverend Dr. Krause, for that inspired message. And I'm still reframing all of the ways we're going to celebrate November 3rd. That is going to be a full day and another Mother's Day as well. I love that. And so now I'd like to introduce my sacred partner. We've been spending a lot of time thinking about the legacy of Justice Ginsburg. Rabbi James Goodman.
When we were sitting around here on Rosh HaShanah evening, it seems like so long ago. When was that? Friday night?
Mm-hmm.
And we were waiting to go do our thing online, and then we were going to have dinner here. And we had Susan's dad here. He hadn't been here in a while, and so everything was on in a good place. And then we heard about the justice's death, and everything stopped. And we all kind of screwed around because we had to do some things. You know, we had to retape some things, and we had to take my father-in-law back home, and, you know, everything stopped a little bit. And I think we kind of settled into ourselves and started thinking about it in an interior way, you know, gosh, what does this mean? And then you start just to tap the door in your heart, you know, that hurts. And you don't think about what does it mean. You enter grief, just grief, you know, not post-grief, grief. And then for myself, I started to think about, well, maybe I'll write a letter, you know, and I'll write a letter, dear he whose name shall not be mentioned, and claim as former president of Eden Seminary and now chief rabbi of North America. I think we should respect the mourning traditions of Jews and have Shiva for the appropriate time, which is 7 weeks. And then I thought about it, and we took our father-in-law home. And when you write, you know, voices assume it's an occupation of the skin when you write. And later on that night, late that night, I had a visit from the Talmud. I imagined a scene in the Talmud, and because there was some business on the internet about when somebody passes, you know, this meme went around when somebody passes on Rosh HaShanah, which you can't really track such a meme, but I was thinking about that, and then I had this picture of the new Talmud, I called it, and I wrote this piece. This piece wrote me. And it's based on, you know, the imagery of Rosh HaShanah, about the book of life, and to be written to the book of life is how we greet each other. And I was thinking about that, you know, that we expected her to be written into the book of life, you know, for longer. Mm. And what a controversy, what an argument that must have made in the other worlds. Not to write her into the book of life. And that's what I saw. From the New Talmud, the books open before God, the book of life and the other book. To be written into the book of life is to live as if your deeds count. You may call this kind of life a prayer. Do not the deeds always count? Inquired the angel prince. That is what we pray for, said the Rav. The greeting written in a good writing, tikatevu, a good writing. The Rav was walking the hall of angels when she heard the argument of two angels. I did not know what I was hearing, said the Rav. Cannot she be written in for another year? We have already delayed came a specially created voice. She is mighty. She will serve. It is said that the angels argue over the souls of the righteous. When it comes their time, their time, their time. What does it mean, their time? Asked the Rav. Their time, the decree when it cannot be changed, the arm of God when it cannot be budged. This life is special. Yes, said the angel prince, she is a blessing, her life a prayer.
Hmm. And so we are in this in-between time, of these holy days. And we know that when someone dies, it is clear when their soul leaves the body. The body that is left is just a physical vessel and no longer the person that we loved, we admired. And in the Jewish tradition, we consider that vessel holy and we honor it from the death to its burial by never leaving that holy vessel alone. The person that guards that body is called a shomer, a guard who recites psalms constantly until the time that the body is taken for the funeral, where the prayers are said that will comfort the mourners and build a bridge between this world and the next. Justice Ginsburg was our shomer. She was our guardian for so long. She was the shomer for women's rights and our bodies. She was the shomer for healthcare and voting rights and causes that make a democracy do its best to be for all the people. She was a shomer for decency and integrity and humor and kindness and courageous compassion. She was a shomer for the next generation and modeled cooperation over competition. She was our shomer and a champion and a guardian of the common good. And like Ruth of the Bible, our Ruth was a loyal friend to all humanity, to all creation. So tonight, the world is a different place. It is a different place because we know that when someone dies, we lose a whole world, and it takes time. It takes time to find our footing again. We need to give ourselves this time to mourn, to tell the stories, to draw out the lessons, the poetry, the prose, the music that will be inspired by her life. But tonight, let us join with the shomer, for I'm sure that somewhere her family has made sure that there would be a shomer there, guarding over that sacred vessel we came to know and love so well. So let us join together with all of those who are reciting psalms over her body as it readies for burial, so that we can say the prayers and tell the stories, comfort her mourners, so that her soul can be free. Looking through the Psalms, I stopped at Psalm 1, for it says, Ashrei ha'isha asher lo halcha be'itzet rashaim. Happy is the woman who does not follow the road that sinners tread, the lawless, it says. but stands or take the path of the frivolous, or who takes the place of the scornful, those who kvetch and complain. Rather, her striving is in the teaching of what is right, the law of what is right. And this is what she studies day and night, so that she will be for us like a tree planted beside streams of water. Her foliage will never fade. Her fruit will never perish, because we honor and remember her. We decided that it wasn't really time for the prayers yet. The memorial prayers will be said when it's time for her funeral. But as we let go of this second day of Rosh HaShanah and enter into the days of awe that will allow for a funeral for her, days of awe, 10 days that will take us to Yom Kippur, that deep dive where we really face the brutal truth of what humans are capable of, the sins, the missing the mark, the disparities, the things we are capable of. We name them, we take them on, and we promise to do better. And this year, we are inspired. We will be inspired by a life that now we are given a legacy to carry on. So it's our custom to separate from one sacred time to the next with the ritual of Havdalah, where we have, this kiddush we say. Kiddush comes from the same word as Kaddish, comes from the same word as Kedusha. This notion of taking what is ordinary and raising it up to find the sacred in it. And so at every opportunity, we make a kiddush, an opportunity to celebrate the joy of her life, the joy of life. And then we kind of take the spices and remember the sweetness that will carry us from this sacred time, from Shabbat to Shabbat, awakening us, keeping that sweetness on our fingers. And then, of course, we have the symbol of the fire. We like to say, you gotta give people fire as well as light. And of course, Justice Ginsburg, she gave us both. So, and then we'll say the prayer that is the prayer of separation, the prayer of letting go, of recognizing where we've been, sitting in this present, and reaching toward, daring to reach for a future where Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet, will come and tell us all those things we've been working for, all of those things that Justice Ginsburg did to make the world, to make our lives more equal, more equitable, to have the voices of those who were not heard be heard. Eliyahu Hanavi, come soon. Let us know these days are close at hand.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hakafeh, creator of the fruit of the vine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, blessed are you, borei b'nei v'samim, creator of the spices. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei, 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 borei. Blessed are you, creator of the lights of the fire. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamabdil ben kodesh l'chol, ben or l'choshen, ben Yisrael yamin. Blessed are you who distinguishes between the holy and the not yet holy. Baruch atah Adonai, hamabdil ben kodesh, ben kodesh, ben kodesh. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Atishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Agiladi, Bimera B'yameinu Yavo Eleinu, Im Mashiach ben David, Im Mashiach ben David, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Atishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Agiladi.
We dare to wish each other a Shavua Tov, knowing that going from this time through this next week will be challenging and will be difficult. There will be more tears, but we know that the justice will also make us smile and push us forward, because that's what she did. I heard her friend say she didn't lament her suffering. She just lived in the day and believed that she would have another day to do good. May we be inspired to do the same. And so before we end, we have our Rabbi Daniel Bogard, who will offer us a teaching, and we thank him for figuring out how to make all of this happen, as always. Rabbi Daniel.
Shana Tova, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Those of you on here, many of you, your words made me cry, though it doesn't take a lot to make me cry right now. And thank you for just everyone who's here together online, right? Even if we can't see each other, I still feel like we can feel each other somehow feel the comfort through the distance. This is a loss that feels so personal to American Jews. She felt like a member of our family, like that righteous, notorious aunt who shows up every year for Passover. The Ruth Bader Ginsburg loss feels like something more. It also feels like the loss of an America that we thought we once knew. An America that embraced difference and aspired to be better than we have been. Ruth made us believe that there could yet be more stanzas written onto Emma Lazarus's poem, those Jewish dreams of these shores. And so I mean it, I haven't stopped crying. I think I'm okay, and then I have tears. I cry for our fragile democracy, and I cry for Ruth and her family, but I am also crying for my own kids, for their future, and for all of those Black and brown and queer and trans and undocumented little ones in a world without that amazing 87-year-old real life Jewish superhero. Throughout these last few years, as we've seen American democracy seem to slip away and white nationalism once again occupy the White House, as I personally moved from someone who used to give sermons talking about how American Jews needed to move past anti-Semitism as our driving force, to now being someone who experiences personal anti-Semitic and white nationalist threats and harassments weekly. As we have witnessed this mutation, I have taken solace in Jewish history. This isn't our first tyrant, and this isn't even our first pandemic. And so I've held on to these classic words from the Mishnah, from Pirkei Avot. Uvmakom she'ein anashim, hishtadel lihiyot ish. When you find yourself in a place without humans, strive to be humane. Now, this is a corrected version of a pretty highly gendered Hebrew original, but I'd like to offer one more interpretive spin on this ancient saying. In a world that is filled with far too many Mitches, be like Ruth. When we look out, when we feel the light of hope fading, and it looks like the world is headed into sundown, be like Ruth, who created the entire corpus of gender equity law that now exists by taking the long game, by recognizing that real revolutions happen over decades, and that real change makers never stop pushing to move the needle just one more inch. When we feel like despair, like we have no more energy to give to this world and no more optimism to light our way, be like Ruth, who looked at an anti-democratic Senate, a white nationalist president, and a body racked with cancer, and fought every single day for every single one of us. When we have lost, when the chips are in, and the votes have been counted and we have yet come up short, be like Ruth, who followed in the long Jewish tradition of preserving minority opinions when she gave voice to so many of us who have felt so voiceless every time she said, "We dissent." And when it is all too much and we can't bring ourselves to keep fighting, be like Ruth, who is as beloved by her grandchildren as she is by us, who renewed her own soul through the nourishment of her community and her tradition, and whose memory will certainly be a blessing for all of us. But it's not enough for her memory to be a blessing, because she is not here anymore. And so it has to be us. We have to carry the weight that she carried on those mighty 87-year-old shoulders. We have to be like Ruth. And so, as we depart from Rosh HaShanah, we insist on seizing this day, and we insist on seizing this year of 5781. The Havdalah that Rabbis Jim and Susan just sang and prayed for us ended with Eliyahu Hanavi, with the image of Elijah the prophet, the image of a world redeemed, a place where things are as they always should have been. We end Havdalah with it, because after Shabbat, after the pause and the mourning and the comforting, we once again pick up the flame and work to light the world. Her light is gone, so we must shine ours just a little bit brighter. Each of us have to be like Ruth. Shana Tova Umetuka, may it be your year of sweetness, of healing, of peace, and of justice for us all.